All right, well, we can get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Jesse Townsend. I'm a graduate intern in the Office of New Student and Family Services, and I'd like to welcome you to our Friday webinar SOAR series. And this webinar will be about NinerReady. So without further ado, I'll let our presenters introduce themselves and their topic for today.
Good morning. Jesse, can you hear us? Can you give us a thumbs up just to make sure our mic is still working?
Yeah, I can hear you
great. The joys of remote working here. It's a lot of mic checking, and please make sure your phone's on mute and you can hear me. Well, good morning, everybody, and we can't see you, so we'll assume that there's a vast group of people on the call and interested in our topic this morning. So my name is Chris Gagner. I'm the Director of Emergency Management here on campus at UNC Charlotte. I have with me today our Exercise and Training Coordinator, Tiffany Bowser.
Good morning.
I'm going to get us kicked off this morning, and then Tiffany's going to take over with the rest of the presentation, and then I'll come back and join the for any Q&A. So we have a few objectives or things that we want to cover this morning related to the Office of Emergency Management and maybe more widely our Department of Safety and Security here on campus. So we'd like to review details of what we call our NinerReady program. We want to distinguish the differences between Niner notices and, most importantly, Niner alerts, which is our emergency alert system or program here on campus. We want to review some specific action directives that come with those Niner alerts. So when we send out an emergency alert for severe weather or a campus evacuation or something else, we provide action directives, and we want to go through what those are and what they mean, what we're asking people to do. We'll briefly discuss the university's operating conditions, and then we also want to identify some resources for emergency preparedness. One of the things that I do want to just add for today is that obviously COVID-19 is on everybody's mind right now, and the safety and security steps that the university is taking to keep people as best we can prepared to come back for the fall semester. Today our topic is a little more comprehensive and holistic than just COVID-19. So we're going to talk about a number of safety and security Office of Emergency Management related programs and initiatives. We will provide some information on COVID-19, and we can certainly answer questions related to COVID-19, but I would urge anybody that has COVID-19 specific questions, comments, concerns to attend one of the town hall meetings that the university has set up. And we can provide dates and where to go for more information on those when we get to the end of the presentation. So some of our resources for emergency preparedness. So the Department of Safety and Security is actually made up of 4 different entities. So it's the Office of Emergency Management, which we're here representing today. It's our Police and Public Safety group. It's our Environmental Health and Safety group. And then it's our Risk Management and Insurance group. And each of us have certainly different areas of responsibility. But we do have a lot of sort of crossover and work together and coordinate together on a lot of things. And I realize that sort of who owns what is not really important to our faculty, staff and students. So for example, Office of Emergency Management sort of owns the strategic components of Niner alerts. Police and Public Safety owns our active shooter response training. Our Environmental Health and Safety owns our building evacuation program. What we want to do today is kind of cross those lines and be able to provide some information relevant to all of those things and where you can find information on all of those things, even though we don't necessarily, quote unquote, own all of those areas. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany to dig into some of the content of our discussion or presentation today, and then we will look forward to answering some questions here in 40 or 45 minutes or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that because it's really difficult to hear with our masks on. So I'm going to take over for Chris and talk a little bit about emergency preparedness. And most of the time people think about what when they think about emergency preparedness, hurricanes, tornadoes, etc. And all that is very relevant. But we'd like to talk a little bit about emergency preparedness on the individual level. We feel very strongly that it really starts with our students, with our staff, and with our faculty. So we here in the Office of Emergency Management have developed a program called NinerReady. And what does that mean? It means that you are prepared for emergencies on an individual level. You know exactly what to do when an emergency occurs so that you feel empowered to respond quickly and efficiently. So we're going to talk a little bit about NinerReady, how you can become more NinerReady, and what you need to do to learn a little bit more about that program. So what do you need to know during an emergency? There are a few things that you need to know. The first thing you need to know is how to receive emergency information. And we're going to talk a little bit about that, our emergency notification system, and how you can be sure that you're signed up for that. You also need to know what to do in the event of an emergency situation. And that includes the various steps that you need to take. So during different types of emergencies, you're definitely going to be asked to do different things. So you need to be able to distinguish, oh, this is a seek shelter action directive versus this is a lockdown directive. You really need to know the difference between those directives and what you should be doing for each one. You also need to know where you can find your emergency preparedness resources. If you're looking for training, where do I find information about that? If you're looking for our videos online, you know, who do I talk to? Where do I go so I can see those? And so we're going to talk about, number one, how you receive emergency information and what that emergency information means, what those action directives are. And then lastly, we'll cover where you can find all of this information on our webpage, which offices have this information so that you can prepare for any type of emergency. Okay, there are 7 simple steps that you can take to become NinerReady, to be more prepared while you're here on campus. The first thing that you can do is program the campus police telephone number into your cell phone. Most people, when they're in an emergency situation, they tend to dial 911, which is not a problem, but if you're dialing 911 on the cell phone, you're going to reach Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department. And of course, they're a partner and they'll respond very quickly and very efficiently. But you want to be sure that you also know the campus police telephone number so that you could have an even faster response. They're here located in this building actually, so they can be to you within minutes, usually under 3 minutes or so. So you definitely want to be sure that you have the campus police telephone number for emergency situations. If you have questions, concerns, comments, if you're looking for things like the lost and found, you want to be sure that you know their non-emergency telephone number. And they also offer certain types of services, like our paratransit service. So we have that listed for you as well so that you can keep all of these numbers as a resource. Another thing you can do is download our safety app on your phone, which is LiveSafe, and we'll definitely go over some of the features of our LiveSafe mobile application, but it's extremely helpful. And a lot of our students that do download it, especially during their first year, have an extra resource right at the tip of their finger, so they really appreciate that. The third thing that you can do is contact your or update your information in Banner Self-Service, which is your contact information. And I want to say this point is very important because this is how you will receive text notification. As students, employees, staff, you will definitely always receive emergency notification via email. But if you want to receive that information through text as well, then you want to be sure that we have your cell phone listed in that section, emergency text phone number section. And we know that text is the fastest way to communicate. You might receive an email and not even notice that you have that notification on your phone. So we definitely want to make sure that your cell phone number is updated in that way. You also can follow Niner Alerts on Twitter or on Facebook so that you're aware. Our emergency notification system is like a multi-service platform. So it is going to push out notifications to several different avenues, and Twitter and Facebook are some of those avenues. You'll receive those emergency notifications. And another thing you can do is build an emergency kit. And a lot of people ask us, well, what do you need? We don't have all the supplies necessary for an emergency kit. It can be as simple as building a grab bag, something that you can keep in your book bag, keep in your room, even keep in your car, that you have with you so that you can be prepared for emergency. So some examples of things that you can put in your grab bag would be granola bars, something that you can have to sustain yourself if you're in a lockdown situation. You can put a flashlight in there. You can throw a couple of Band-Aids in there. So it doesn't have to be anything extremely extensive, but being prepared on that level definitely does help in certain situations. You can also create a personal emergency plan. And again, it does not have to be anything extensive, but one simple thing that you can do is go in each building and determine what's my evacuation route for this building. Who are my safety monitors in this building? What would I do if I need to evacuate? You already have that in the back of your mind and you're already prepared in the event that something like that happens. And then lastly, if you will, please go to the emergency website, emergency.uncc.edu, and watch our action directive videos, Seek Shelter, Lockdown, and Evacuation. And that's located on our webpage. Okay, so the information that you will receive, Niner notices. Niner notices are messages sent to the campus community, and they are informational only. So they're sent to you via email, and it's important to understand that these type of notices indicate that there's not a threat on campus. Something's occurred on campus, and we want you to know about it. Maybe there is a pipe that has busted and you see a fire engine on campus. Well, it's not an emergency situation, but we want you to know that, there are responders on campus and this is why. And that information only comes to you via email so that you won't receive text notifications and be concerned with campus messages. You will also receive Niner alerts. And Niner alerts are extremely important. This is our emergency notification to our campus community. So when you receive a Niner alert, that does mean that there is some type of threat to campus. And we will send Niner alerts a variety of ways. So automatically you will get an email. Of course, you're already set to receive that through your campus email. You will also receive a text if you've signed up, if you have your information updated in Banner Self-Service, you'll get that text message. We have other methods like our Live Safe app that we mentioned. We can push notifications to that app. We push notifications to Facebook and Twitter. And we have a digital screen takeover. So we can push that information to every public screen, every computer screen. So you'll see that in classes, you'll see that in the library, you'll see that in common spaces that have those screens, informational screens across campus. So we push that information to as many platforms as possible. And we do that because we don't want you to miss this emergency information. And also, there are going to be specific action directives that you need to take when you receive a NINER alert. So it's very important that you receive this information in one of many ways, whether it's your email, whether it's your text, whether it's social media. We definitely want you to know that something's going on in campus and there are things that you need to be prepared. So very quickly, one question that we get very often is, what's the difference between NINER Notice and NINER Alert again? You know, should I be paying attention to all of these? What does it mean? So we just highlighted a few differences just to go over very quickly again. And NINER Notice means that there's information that you need to know. And there's not a threat to campus, and you will only receive these notifications via email. Now, a NINER Alert means there is something that you need to know, and there is a possible threat to campus. It's always going to include very specific information for you, some action directives, steps that you need to take so that you can be sure that you're safe and that you can assist to keep the campus community safe. And you will receive that message through a variety of platforms. And another thing to notice is that there are some action directives that you get and you will receive an all clear, meaning that you don't want to stop the action directive. You don't want to stop seeking shelter, or you don't want to leave a lockdown situation until you receive an all clear message. And you will see by the presentation that those include lockdown, tornado warning, and campus evacuation. During any of those events, you will receive an all clear message letting you know that it is safe to return to campus or safe to, deactivate any of these action items. Okay, so again, another question that we get is, how do I sign up for these emergency notifications? Well, students, faculty, and staff, they are already set to receive NINER alerts via email. If they have their information updated in Banner, they're also going to get the text notifications as well. And again, just depending, if you follow us on social media, you'll get those push notifications. If you have downloaded LiveSafe onto your phone, you'll receive that notification as well. Now, families of enrolled students and guests, you can definitely sign up to receive NINER alerts via email on our webpage, on our emergency management webpage. But also, you can register to receive text alerts for emergency notification. And what you need to do is just text UNCC Charlotte alerts to 67283 to receive those text messages. Now, this is a temporary notification queue, meaning that you will be enrolled in this notification for 1 year. And at the end of the year, you'll receive a message that says, hey, your year is up. Would you like to re-enroll? And all you would have to do is reply yes, and you'll be re-enrolled for another year. That really helps us with especially parents who have students here, students that have graduated and that are no longer on campus. Family members who no longer wish to receive those alerts. So we have it set up so that you can receive emails and you can text messages if you are a family member or a guest here on campus. Okay, let's talk a little bit about those action directives that you will receive during an emergency notification. Action directives are always going to include specific steps for you to take so that you can keep yourself safe. So those action directives are lockdown, including run, hide, fight, seek shelter, and evacuation. A lockdown is the institution's response to an active assailant. With the push of a button, he can block nearly 100% of exterior doors across our campus. So it's important to know that when a lockdown occurs, we're going to hit that button and the buildings will then automatically lock themselves, meaning that you can exit a building, but if you are outside, you cannot enter until that lockdown is lifted. Very important information for students, staff, faculty to know during this type of situation. And another question we get is, if I'm in a lockdown and I'm outside and the buildings are locked, I can't get in, what should I do? You know, I really want to get in so I can shelter. Well, that goes into our individual response, which is run, hide, fight. That's what you're going to do during an active assailant situation. And what the guidance is, it really recommends that if you're outside and you're not around an assailant, we really want you to evacuate. And that means leave the premises, leave the area, leave the campus if at all possible. If you're safe, please, please, please get as far away as possible. The second action in that directive is hide. That means you're not quite sure if you can get away. You're not quite sure if you can evacuate. You don't know where the danger is and you don't feel safe running. We want you to hide at that time. We want you to barricade. We want you to seek any type of cover that you can and stay there until the lockdown is lifted or until you are released by a college official. Excuse me. And lastly, the directive is fight. Fight is actually a last resort option. It does not mean to ever seek out an assailant and fight them. It does mean that if you're ever in a situation where you are presented with an assailant, they are right there and you have no option at that time, you must fight. So that's what those two action directives mean, and that's how they work together. It can be confusing because you see both on the emergency notification, but just remember the lockdown is what the institution will be doing immediately as far as locking our buildings down and keeping our students, faculty, and staff safe. And then run, hide, fight is the action directive that we ask the individual to follow so that they can keep themselves safe as well. Seek shelter. This is an active action directive that you will see normally during severe weather, like tornadoes, severe thunderstorms. You're going to receive a seek shelter action directive. And that means you should stay inside. You know, it's not safe to evacuate. It's not safe to go outdoors. So we need you to stay inside. If you're outside, we need you to go to the nearest building and shelter there. And so once you're inside, you want to find an appropriate room or space in the building to shelter. Stay away from the window if possible, especially during severe weather. You definitely don't want to be in a situation where you're surrounded by windows, open doors, anything like that. You want to shelter in a very secure room, ideally with no windows, if at all possible. And then lastly, you'll see evacuation, which is separated into two categories. We have a building evacuation, in which we are going to be asking students, faculty, and staff to evacuate from a specific building or building and report to the closest assembly point. And then we have a campus evacuation, in which we're asking students, faculty, and staff to evacuate from either a portion or the entire campus. At this time for campus evacuation, we do have color-coded signs. So if you're in a specific zone, you will see those signs directing you towards the evacuation route that you should take. But the important thing to realize is that if you're receiving a campus evacuation, just be sure to look at your phone, stay updated for continuing information about which side of the campus is closed, which side of the campus you can't pass, you can't exit from, so that you know exactly where you're going and what you should do. Okay, Now we're going to look a little bit about operating conditions, because there are going to be certain times in which the operations of the campus might change. So we have 3 operating conditions, and the first one is reduced operations. So normally there's a very slight risk to campus, so you might see a delay in class schedule change, or maybe class ends early that day because of a winter storm possibly coming. So instead of having evening classes, they end all classes at 3 p.m. So that's what reduced operations. Condition 2 or C2 would be suspended operations, and that time classes could be canceled entirely. It just depends on the situation. And then condition 3, the university is closed. And by closed, we generally mean that students don't have to go to class. If you don't live on campus, you don't have to report to campus. And non-essential personnel are asked not to come to work. We're never completely closed because we have campus police here. We have emergency management and some essential personnel that do always come in during these type of situations. However, for your purposes, for students and non-essential personnel, and a C3, the university is closed, and there's nothing that you can do until that is lifted. Okay, so now that we've talked about our emergency notifications, our action directives, what you need to do in certain types of situations, just wanted to briefly discuss where you can go to receive certain information. Of course, you can always visit our webpage, the Office of Emergency Management, that have a wide variety of information, from action directives to emergency notifications to additional resources to the safety videos that I mentioned about seek shelter and lockdown and evacuation. Extremely good information, and the videos are very informative, but they're not very long. So that's actually excellent training tool that you can utilize to learn a little bit more about what those action directives actually look like on campus. And we also have our campus police webpage, and they have listed there specific ALIS training, which is active assailant training. They have self-defense training available, and they're also building emergency evacuation plan training that you can take, and that would be administered actually through environmental health and safety department, but that information is listed on our website as well. And then lastly, again, please download the LiveSafe app, because it not only includes information on emergency situations, it includes a walking guide, which we'll talk a little bit more about. It includes bus routes here on campus, so it has a wide variety of information. And then we have on our web pages information about COVID-19 as well. So just to touch a little bit on LiveSafe, because this can be a very valuable tool for new and incoming students especially. We do have the ability to call or text to have a conversation with a public safety official 24/7. You have a copy of the university evacuation map on LiveSafe. You can anonymously report any incident that you like, which is nice because you can do that without anyone knowing who you are if you need to report certain information. You can initiate a safe walk in which you have someone virtually walk with you on campus, especially if you're having to walk during the evening or at night. And you can check out our buildings. If you're new on campus, you definitely have a tendency to get a little lost first semester especially. So there are guides with GPS assistance on our app. And excuse me, there's also a link to the bus route. So not only can you check out which routes go to which locations, you can actually see what time the bus is getting to your stop. So again, if you're on campus in the evening or at night, you can actually stay inside a building and watch the app until it's time for the bus to arrive at your stop. And you can walk out so that you're not having to wait outside. So this is definitely a useful tool, and not to mention that we do send emergency notifications. We push them to this app as well. So it's definitely helpful for our first year students especially. Okay, so COVID-19. We do have a wide variety of information on our webpage, emergency management, for students, for family, for our staff and our faculty. And we also have a webpage called NinerReady. And on that webpage, that does list details of additional information, guides, recommendations, and has the information about the town hall meetings that they're going to have in August, which we definitely recommend that you attend. If you have specific questions, if you have concerns and need to know details about what we're doing during this hectic time, you can ask your questions there. So we definitely recommend, number one, checking out the emergency management webpage, going to NinerReady page, and hopefully attending those town hall meetings so that you can learn some more information regarding COVID-19 and our processes during this time. So that actually concludes the presentation right now. I think that Jesse's going to let us know if there were specific questions in regards to the presentation.
All right. Yeah, so now we're at the Q&A portion of the presentation. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box, and I can moderate those questions to our presenter.
Wow, I must have covered everything. All right, extremely thoroughly, which is good. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Or are there like any frequently asked questions that your office may get that you may want to elaborate a little more on if participants don't necessarily know what they want to ask?
Right, yeah, until it comes up. I would say we get a lot of questions about, again, ALICE training, which is our active assailant training. It is actually an amazing training because there are two parts to the training. There is the instructional, where the trainer goes over information as to what you can do when you're in certain situations. And then there's actually a simulation type, I would say, portion to the class, which is not super serious, but it does give the participants a chance to act out a little bit what they just learned, so that it sticks in their mind a little bit and they can actually relate what they learned to real life situations. So I would say that is an excellent training to attend. You just have to attend it to kind of see, but the feedback from everyone, from students, from faculty, from staff, is that they were very grateful for the training and they are glad that they attended. You can even, as a student group or sometimes certain classes in particular, will request the training so that they have the training in their space. And it makes even more sense for them because they know what they can do, utilize their resources in the specific space where they reside or where they are often, and they find that extremely helpful as well. So that is a question that we get a lot. Another question we get is just in regards to like the action directives that I mentioned, you know, what does that mean? What exactly does lockdown mean? And what's the difference between lockdown and run, hide, fight? And is it confusing for students to receive that information in one emergency notification? So I think that just watching the lockdown video on the emergency management webpage will be really helpful because it gives you more of a visual to understand that, yes, you'll see lockdown in this emergency notification, and then underneath that, you'll see run, hide, fight. And basically, the notification is letting you know that we are in a lockdown situation. However, as an individual, the action directive you need to take is either run, hide, or fight. And it gives you the flexibility to do whatever's best for you. You don't necessarily have to do it in that order. It says run first, so I have to run first. That's if you feel safe to do so. That's if you're in a situation where you're not in danger, you know where the assailant is, and you know that you can leave. It gives you the flexibility to leave. Then maybe stay on campus and be in lockdown for a couple hours versus, you know, being at a friend's house or, you know, at Starbucks and waiting it out. So we do get a lot of questions about that. And specifically, again, we get questions about, you know, what do our students do, or what do I do as a student if we're in lockdown and the doors are locked and I can't get in? And we just reiterate that if you're safe and you're not in danger, you don't want to try to get into a building. You want to go somewhere that is completely safe and where the assailant is definitely not going to be. So I think that can be a little confusing at first, but when you watch the videos and, you know, you think through the process, it definitely becomes more clear.
Okay. We have a few questions in the
Okay, great.
Q&A. Says, are notifications different for parents?
They are not different. You just will not receive all of them. So as a parent, excuse me, as a parent, you will get lockdown notifications. You will get seek shelter notifications during tornado warnings, and you'll get condition changes when the university is closed or, you know, operations are suspended. But what you won't get is the ton of other notifications that that your students will. For instance, our emergency notification is automatically tied to the National Weather Service. So those notifications are actually automatic. There's not a person pushing them. They're tied to radar. So unfortunately, our students can be a little wary of receiving severe thunderstorm warning notifications. It is very important because, as we found the last few days, lightning strikes are definitely a thing, and they do occur. But you just won't necessarily receive all of those notifications. You'll get the 3 items that I listed, which are lockdown. You'll get the campus condition and the seek shelter.
Okay. The next question is, where do I go to sign up for the training classes?
For the training classes, the ALICE active assailant training classes are listed on their webpage, Campus Police. At this time, I don't know if during the summer, if they're doing any training because of social distancing and things of that nature, but they should update that information for the fall. And it'll be on the Campus Police webpage under ALICE training.
Okay, sounds good. That was the last question that we had in the Q&A. But I just want to reiterate, thank you to our presenters, Chris and Tiffany, for providing that information for the Office of Emergency Management and NinerReady. As you can see, their contact information is on the screen. Yeah, is there any additional thing you would like to add in, Tiffany?
No, just thank you for the opportunity, letting us speak about this important information. We find that it really does help, especially if we're able to reach out and talk to parents a little bit more. It eases their mind. So we're here all the time. As you can see, we're always here. So if you ever have any questions, feel free to email, call us. A lot of times we do work out of the Emergency Operations Center. So email is probably the fastest way, but anytime you need to know something, if you're confused about something, you can send it to email, and our response time is really fast. So that's about it.
All right, well, thank you again. And to all our participants and attendees, if you have any additional questions, please contact them and they will be answered for you. And I also encourage you to visit our YouTube channel where you can see more of our webinar videos that we've recorded in the past weeks. And also today's videos will be uploaded next week as well. And you just search on YouTube the Office of New Student and Family Services for UNC Charlotte. And that is all. But thank you all for attending and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Jesse.
All right, bye.